Your father is rampaging proud of you, isn't he?" "I don't know," answered the dazed Freckles. "Well, call on me if you want reliable information. He's so proud of you he's all swelled up like the toad in Aesop's fables. If you have ever had an arm hurt like this and can do anything, why, for pity's sake, do it." She turned back her sleeve, holding toward Freckles the arm of palest cameo, shaped so exquisitely that no sculptor could have chiseled it. Freckles unlocked his case, and taking out some cotton cloth, he tore it in strips. Then he brought a bucket of the cleanest water he could find. She yielded herself to his touch as a baby, and he bathed away the blood and bandaged the ugly, ragged wound. He finished his surgery by lapping the torn sleeve over the cloth and binding it down with a piece of twine, with the Angel's help about the knots. Freckles worked with trembling fingers and a face tense with earnestness. "Is it feeling any better?" he asked. "Oh, it's well now," cried the Angel. "It doesn't hurt at all any more." "I'm mighty glad," said Freckles. "But you had best go and be having your doctor fix it right the minute you get home." "Oh, bother! A little scratch like that?" jeered the Angel. "My blood is perfectly pure. It will heal in 3 days." "It's cut cruel deep. It might be making a scar," faltered Freckles, his eyes on the ground. "'Twould be an awful pity. A doctor might know something to prevent it." "Why, I never thought of that!" exclaimed the Angel. "I noticed you didn't," said Freckles softly. "I don't know much about it, but it seems as if most girls would." The Angel thought intently while Freckles still knelt beside her. Suddenly she gave herself an impatient little shake, lifted her glorious eyes full to his, and the smile that swept her sweet young face was the loveliest thing that Freckles had ever seen. "Don't let's bother about it," she proposed, with the faintest hint of a confiding gesture toward him. "It won't make a scar. Why, it couldn't when you've dressed it so nicely." The velvety touch of her warm arm was tingling in Freckles' fingertips. Dainty lace and fine white ribbon peeped through her torn dress. There were beautiful rings on her fingers. Every article she wore was of the finest material and in excellent taste. There was the trembling Limberlost guard in his coarse clothing, with his cotton rags and his old pail of swamp water. Freckles was sufficiently accustomed to contrasts to notice them, and sufficiently fine to be hurt by them always. He lifted his eyes with a shadowy pain in them to hers, and found them of serene, unconscious purity. What she had said was straight from a kind, untainted young heart. She meant every word of it. Freckles' soul sickened. He scarcely knew whether he could muster strength to stand. "We must go and hunt for the carriage," said the Angel, rising. In instant alarm for her, Freckles sprang up, grasped the cudgel, and led the way, sharply watching every step. He went as close the log as he felt he dared, and with a little searching found the carriage. He cleared a path for the Angel, and with a sigh of relief saw her enter it safely. The heat was intense. She pushed the damp hair from her temples. "This is a shame," said Freckles. "You'll never be coming here again." "Oh, yes, I shall," said the Angel. "The Bird Woman says that these birds remain over a month in the nest, and she would like to make a picture every few days for 7 or 8 weeks, perhaps." Freckles barely escaped crying aloud for joy. "Then don't you ever be torturing yourself and your horse to be coming in here again," he said. "I'll show you a way to drive almost to the nest on the east trail, and then you can come around to my room and stay while the Bird Woman works. It's nearly always cool there, and there's comfortable seats and water." "Oh, did you have drinking water there?" she cried. "I was never so thirsty or so hungry in my life, but I thought I wouldn't mention it." "And I had not the wit to be seeing," wailed Freckles. "I can be getting you a good drink in no time." He turned to the trail. "Please wait a minute," called the Angel. What's your name? I want to think about you while you're gone." Freckles lifted his face with a brown rift across it and smiled quizzically. "Freckles?" she guessed, with a peal of laughter. "And mine is—" "I'm knowing yours," interrupted Freckles. "I don't believe you do. What is it?" asked the girl. "You won't be getting angry?" "Not until I've had the water, at least." It was Freckles' turn to laugh. He whipped off his big floppy straw hat, stood uncovered before her, and said in the sweetest of all the sweet tones of his voice, "There's nothing you could be but the Swamp Angel." The girl laughed happily. Once out of her sight, Freckles ran every step of the way to the cabin. Mrs. Duncan gave him a small bucket of water, cool from the well. He carried it in the crook of his right arm, and a basket filled with bread and butter, cold meat, apple pie, and pickles in his left hand. "Pickles are kind of coolin'," said Mrs. Duncan. Then Freckles ran again. The Angel was on her knees, reaching for the bucket as he came up. "Be drinking slow," he cautioned her. "Oh!" she cried with a long breath of satisfaction. "It's so good. You're more than kind to bring it." Freckles stood blinking in the dazzling glory of her smile until he could scarcely see to lift the basket. "Mercy!" she exclaimed. "I think I had better be naming you the Angel, my guardian angel." "Yes," said Freckles. "I look the character every day, but today most emphatic." "Angels don't go by looks," laughed the girl. "Your father told us you had been scrapping, but he told us why. I'd gladly wear all your cuts and bruises if I could do anything that would make my father look as peacocky as yours did. He strutted about proper. I never saw anyone look prouder." "Did he say he was proud of me?" marveled Freckles. "He didn't need to," answered the Angel. "He was radiating pride from every pore. Now, have you brought me your dinner?" "I had my dinner 2 hours ago," answered Freckles. "Honest Injun?" bantered the Angel. "Honest. I brought that on purpose for you." "Well, if you knew how hungry I am, you would know how thankful I am, to the dot," said the Angel. "Then you be eatin'," cried the happy Freckles. The Angel sat on a big camera and spread the lunch on the carriage seat and divided it in halves. The daintiest parts she could select she carefully put back into the basket. The remainder she ate. Again Freckles found her of the swamp, for though she was almost ravenous, she managed her food as gracefully as his little yellow fella, and her every movement was easy and charming. As he watched her with famished eyes, Freckles told her of his birds, flowers, and books, and never realized what he was doing. He led the horse to a deep pool that he knew of, and the tortured creature drank greedily and lovingly rubbed him with its nose as he wiped down its welted body with grass. Suddenly the Angel cried, "There comes the Bird Woman." Freckles had intended leaving before she came, but now he was glad indeed to be there, for a warmer, more worn, and worse bitten creature he had never seen. She was staggering under a load of cameras and paraphernalia. Freckles ran to her aid. He took all he could carry of her load and stowed it in the back of the carriage, then helped her in. The Angel gave her water, knelt and unfastened the leggings, bathed her face, and offered the lunch. Freckles brought the horse. He was not sure about the harness, but the Angel knew, and soon they had left the swamp. Then he showed them how to reach the chicken tree from the outside, indicated a cooler place for the horse, and told them how, the next time they came, the Angel could find his room while she waited. The Bird Woman finished her lunch and lay back, almost too tired to speak. "Were you forgetting Little Chicken's picture?" Freckles asked. "Finally," she answered. "He posed splendidly, but I couldn't do anything with his mother. She will require coaxing." "The Lord be praised," muttered Freckles under his breath. The Bird Woman began to feel better. "Why do you call the baby vulture Little Chicken?" she asked, leaning toward Freckles in an interested manner.